And we appreciate the depth of expertise that all of our witnesses have. To drill down more on the Hanford versus Savannah River, in your report, this is really the big ticket item. Tens of billions, 40 billion, just kind of doing the math between facilities that might be built, might not be built, processes that occur. Those are huge sums. And so DOE, as I understand it then, has no current authority bound by law. It would take congressional action for them to make a decision on vitrification versus grout. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they have an order where they have treated some waste at other sites through the grouting process. But back in 2002, they were challenged in court, and they sought clarification. So in 2004, the Congress clarified that, yes, they did have that authority for everywhere except Hanford.
Why was it left out?
Because Hanford at that time was not convinced that, the state of Washington, of course, is also a player here, was not convinced that the technology was as good. They had some concerns. For example, DOE did grouting at Rocky Flats outside of Denver, Colorado in early 90s, and it fell apart. In fact, when I first started my career, almost 30 years ago, I did some of that work. But they've gotten better at that, and some of the technologies have improved, so we think it's an option. And at Savannah, they have grouted 4 million gallons of the low-level waste successfully, as well as 4 million of the high-level waste.
And not had the legal challenges
they had the authority. Yeah, they had the authority clarified by Congress in 2004, and they've successfully done that.
I see. So if the committee or others, if we were to take congressional action, then it would need to specifically name Hanford as being on the same par.
It would clarify that for them, yeah.
What legal hurdles do you think that would face?
I don't think there'd be legal hurdles.
Because of the other facilities are using this.
Yeah, right. You already have precedent at the Savannah River. I think, of course, the congressional delegation from Washington needs to be involved in the process, because there are other perception issues that need to be dealt with there. I think this evolved with good people making the best decisions at the time and the maturity of the technology at the time. But the maturity of the technology is involved now, so it's a different issue. So I think Congress could take a different approach. One area we added to the high-risk list with the last update was environmental liabilities for the federal government. The reported estimates now to clean up nuclear waste and these other areas are approaching $500 billion. We're spending tens of billions of dollars every year to clean up this activity, but the liability keeps growing as opposed to going down. And so there needs to be risk-based, cost-effective strategies put in place, and that's why we suggested this particular issue at Hanford be revisited.
And I think it's an excellent recommendation. In fact, if this committee were to do nothing else other than save $40 billion in the course of this term, that we would be doing great service to the Republic. With regard to other big-ticket items, $16.2 billion paid in fraudulent EIC payments, $1.7 billion paid in identity theft fraud. It's one thing to have duplication, fragmentation, others, but to pay thieves, calling it improper payments is not only improper, but it's an insult to every single taxpayer that is out there. Can you speak to your earlier recommendations where delays of payments could help buy time to give proper identification and catch these frauds and prevent it? And then you've got those that are saying, oh, no, we can't do that because, we don't want to affect the economy and people want their refunds. Well, as an American taxpayer, I think anyone out there, it's like, hey, would you accept a slight delay in your refund so that, the thief next door is not taking somebody else's money? I think most Americans would be amenable to that. But can you speak to that for a moment?
Oh, sure. Sure, be happy to. First, when identity theft first came on the scene, in addition to the earned income tax credit, problem that they have with fraud and abuse. First of all, tax administration has been on our high-risk list since it was created back in the 1990s. So it's been a problem for a long time. Now, what we recommended to the Congress was that the IRS get W-2s from employers earlier in the process. You know, they're processing tax returns in February and March, largely, starting maybe even earlier than that, but they weren't getting the W-2s until April. So the crooks file early.
Sure.
All right.
And January, get the refund, be gone.
Right.
And the actual person files and.
Yeah. So Congress acted on our recommendation. They implemented, the W-2s now come in earlier, except there's still a lot that come in paper form that they can't process quickly enough. So we have recommendations to encourage Congress to mandate more electronic filing of W-2s from employers. Right now, that's threshold set at 250 employees. We think it could be down to 10 to do that area. IRS's own estimates are that they could save $300 million by delaying it a couple weeks to do that. Now, I think, you know, and we've suggested Congress or IRS do a cost-benefit analysis and share it with the Congress and see if we could get agreement. Now, I think you could have a phased approach over time that allows them to delay the returns until more electronic information can come in. And then I think over time, if you can get more electronic information in, they get their systems up to date, they won't need the extra time into that approach. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Well, and we really need to assist in these findings. You know, your previous recommendations have helped, but we see, you know, as technology advances, that there's a lot of crooks that leverage it. And, you know, the IRS is not the favorite agency of the American public, but, you know, we need to try to help them with the right tools and have the public respond, and Congress certainly needs to take the lead on that. Well, I am out of time for my initial round of questions. I would like to recognize the gentlelady from New York, and then if we have time available, we will go to a couple of additional questions. The gentlelady is recognized.
So much. And